What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. A link will be in the description box below, as usual. This video is entitled Era of Inconsiderate Relationships. I was talking to one of my best friends yesterday, and just kind of made this topic come to pass, where a lot of things is going on with relationships in general, whether it's parenting relationships, marriages, just intimate relationships, friendships, is this era of just being able to be inconsiderate and keep people in your life. And the arrogance and deflection and the omission of reality that you out of line, which is hypocritical because people are inconsiderate on a regular basis, just in life, but they're easily offended. Cricket time. These crickets out here pimping. They ain't playing with you in the streets. But what I mean by that is, we have a time where entitlement is too much, because the entitlement of this era says that you owe me something. But the problem with that, people who feel entitled that somebody else owes them don't have the same spirit of obligation. So you're inconsiderate because you feel like you're owed by someone, but you don't feel like you owe that person who anything. So what winds up happening is you're reacting to life and people in a this is what you're supposed to do for me, type of pedestal mentality. And it's very inconsiderate, because a lot of times we don't take into consideration in this era, especially with entitlement, is, they're saying somebody could do 100 things for you, but you only remember the time they told you no. Sometimes in that ideology is the assumption that you didn't do things for them at all. You were too busy asking of them. What were you doing for them? And a lot of times we ignore it because, it can be looked at as a statement of you did absolutely nothing for the person that you ask a lot of, which very, very big problem. You know what I'm saying? Very big problem. So that's what we're going with that one, right? Now, the other thing, the people's standards. It's with the entitlement, but people have delusions of grandeur. They see themselves on a level, and you have to be on their level or be above. And the crazy part about it is, you have to be on their level or above their level. Now, it's crazy that a person wants people on their level but will settle for people above their level. But don't think it's inconsiderate to say, settling for somebody beneath you is absolute asinine. It's absolutely asinine. But you only the bare minimum is to be with somebody on your level. But you'll settle for somebody who's higher than you. So you're a complete hypocrite. If you're getting over from the settling equation, it's good. If you're losing, it's no good. And that's very inconsiderate, because you're not going to treat the person who's on a higher level than you better because you see yourself on a lower level. You're just going to act as though your lower level is a blessing to their higher level life. That's how it plays out a lot of times. So it's very inconsiderate. The idea that you have to accept me as I am And a lot of times that's a bad thing. It's not accept me as I am, as like a giver, as a bringer of peace, a bringer of information, somebody who's a down and a teammate, and somebody who brings favor to your life. It's normally not that. It's normally somebody who's always dysfunctional and you have to accept it, which is, like I said, inconsiderate, an inconsiderate relationship. You know, like people who come over, people who like coming into your life with hands out all the time. I mean inconsiderate relationships as in the people that want your fish but don't want to learn how to fish. You know, there's relationships where people want to eat off of your plate, but you be like, okay, I'm gonna show you how to get it. Nah, that's all right, but I'm hungry though. You know, so you gonna show up every time, you know, there's food on the table, and because there's food on the table, it's an open invitation for you to show up and eat on a regular basis. You know, that's an inconsiderate relationship. You know, the individualistic mindset, because nobody does anything alone. You know, well, I won't say nobody. Few people are successful by themselves, and those few people sometimes were probably forced into situations where they had to just get it on their own. But most people understand that to be successful, you have to work together. You have to work in a unit. And I would say there's a lot of inconsiderate relationships because, you know, there are a lot of people who want to show up for the celebration but don't show up for the work. But they want just as much praise as the person that put in the most work. And I think that creates animosity, because a lot of times in this era, people are resented and hated for actually going above and beyond as far as being productive, reliable, dependable, resourceful, and winning because of that. You know, people like eating off of those people, but they hate those people because for some odd reason, that could have been me, which makes the relationship inconsiderate, because you see people who are actively trying to sabotage successful people or people who they feel are more successful than them to bring them down a notch while they're really eating off of them. That's what I mean by, you know what I'm saying, inconsiderate relationships. You know, it's another thing that's tied to that is there are people like that who constantly benefit from someone else's success, but if those people part ways, they feel like they're owed. And that's very inconsiderate. Like, you don't take into consideration how many benefits you've received in a relationship with a person that has been very considerate to your needs and wants. But if the relationship dissolves, all of a sudden they owe you. You know, they took you out. They took you on trips. They changed your life. They changed your lifestyle. They spoiled you with their spoils of success. You know, in some cases they've even upgraded your family. But if it dissolves, they owe you. You don't owe them anything, and you walk off as though it's okay. Like, yeah, they owe me, and they're gonna pay me for knowing them. And what becomes very telling is, and I'll say this and end it, one of the major things about these inconsiderate relationships is the person who would benefit off of these relationships, who is normally the inconsiderate one. But if that relationship dissolves, they won't bring anything to the other people's lives because they were a benefiter. They weren't. They're a show horse. They weren't a workhorse. So what winds up happening is, even if they feel like they won, they lost, because now they're surrounded by themselves. They're surrounded by inconsiderate people who, a lot of times, you ignored and played and used the considerate person, and now that you two separate, their life gets a whole lot better, and yours gets a whole lot worse. That's just how it works, in my opinion. I'm going too long. I'm sore. Whatever. We out.